Visit wwf.org.au/tiger. Adopt a tiger and help us stop wildlife crime.
This is AIM Agenda. With me now, Labor frontbencher Amanda Rishworth and also the Parliamentary Secretary for Communications, Paul Fletcher. Good morning to you both. Amanda, first to you on this report in the Australian newspaper suggesting the government's willing to compromise further on the issue of higher education reform and not go ahead with those 20% in cuts in terms of university funding. That would make that their proposals on higher education more palatable, wouldn't it?
Well, look, what the proposals still do is leave the door open for $100,000 degrees for students attending university, because what the proposal still does is allows universities to choose to charge what they want. And what we do know is that Joe Hockey has said that he will make savings from higher education. So what we know is likely to happen is that if these changes were to get through, then there would be cuts to higher education in terms of funding down the line. So Labor stands opposed to allowing universities to charge what they want, because we believe that young people should get the opportunity to go to university.
Paul Fletcher, Dio Wang of the Palmer Party, while Amanda Rishworth obviously is not budging and Labor not budging despite this apparent compromise from the government, the Palmer Party looks like it might. Dio Wang, the Palmer senator, says that this this proposal would make that bill more attractive.
Well, Karen, the key point is that the higher education sector is absolutely vital to Australia's productivity and competitiveness and to future opportunities for Australians. Under our package, some 80,000 additional Australians by 2018 will be in a position to have Commonwealth assistance for their places. Now, Labor knows that the present system is unsustainable. The higher education sector, the Universities Australia and across the sector supports the package that Minister Christopher Pyne has been taking forward. Now, what Minister Pyne has signalled very clearly is a willingness to negotiate. In the amended version of the bill that he reintroduced in December, he took account of a number of measures that had been suggested by crossbench senators. For example, the notion of a 5-year pause in the indexation of HECS for primary carers. So there's been a very clear signal at every stage that the government, and Minister Pyne in particular, is willing to engage constructively with senators. But this is a vital package. This is a vital package to provide additional funding into the university sector, which is so important to our competitiveness as a nation. If you look at great Australian companies like Cochlear, for example, that company is based upon revenue of $900 million a year, world leader in hearing implants, based upon technology developed research at Melbourne University in the 60s. So the university system is critical to our prosperity. We must have it sustainable and growing.
In terms of the Labor criticism here, Labor's saying that the unis are going to introduce $100,000 fees, but if this compromise does go ahead and the government doesn't reduce university funding by 20%, doesn't the Labor scare campaign look a bit far-fetched, as if the universities would be pursuing those enormous fee rises if their current funding arrangements stay in place?
Well, look, under Christopher Pyne's proposal, the only cap on university fees for domestic students is that of international students, and we have seen the fee levels for international students go into significant amounts, including up to $100,000. Indeed, the University of Western Australia has announced their fee schedule, and if you want to become a lawyer, then it's approximately going to cost you $95,000, and if you want to be a doctor, it's over $100,000. So we're not talking a scare campaign, we're talking reality. What we know is that universities, those that have the market power, will put their fees up as much as they can, and that will price many students out of the market. Now, it's not going to price all students out of the market, but it's going to price some of our best and brightest and actually discourage them from getting a university degree. So if we want to have a sector with our human capacity that is able to do the job, then we need to ensure that our best and brightest get into university.
Paul Fletcher, is this important for the government to get some momentum, some political momentum to start this year, given there have been a few difficulties elsewhere, and certainly on health policy.
Kieran, it's important for Australia. It's important for Australia that we have a vibrant, successful, growing university system. I just want to make the point that higher education contribution system, HECS, will remain, and that will mean that people are not paying up front. And of course, there's no requirement to repay until you are earning a decent wage, around $50,000 a year. But I also want to make the point, Amanda keeps coming back to this scare campaign. Let's look at what Maxine McHugh, former Labor Parliamentary Secretary, has had to say in the last couple of days. And she's effectively made the point that Labor needs to engage constructively with the government on the future of this vital sector. And at the moment, we've had Labor refusing to engage constructively.
I want to ask you both about the Manus Island situation. Paul Fletcher, Fairfax says 20 asylum seekers were found with weapons and petrol after raids at that facility, according to a well-placed source. This remains a volatile situation there on Manus Island. Are we heading to another situation like the incident that saw Reza Barati lose his life?
Well, look, as Immigration Minister Dutton has said, first of all, he's congratulated both the Papua New Guinea government and the contractors involved in running the facility, Transfield, in terms of the way it's been managed and the way that security and order has been restored. He's made the very strong point that people in that facility are not going to be able to come to Australia, and no attempt to contest the rules that apply to the operation of that facility are going to change that. He's also made the point that the disobedience and the disorder that we've seen there has been a factor which has compromised the availability of food and water to some within the facility, which was an important reason for action being taken. He has further made the point, this is a very important point, that we have understood the lessons from the incident last year, and that is obviously important in terms of learning from that for the future.
Amanda Rishworth, is the problem here the structural issue that we don't have? Well, that's a jurisdictional issue. Australia doesn't have sovereignty over this centre. It's on PNG land, and it's a structural flaw in the process that was established under the Rudd government. Did Rudd rush this through and therefore leave a situation where, while the government might want to deal with this more effectively, they can't because it's on PNG soil?
Well, not at all, and I have to say that quite frankly what we've seen from the Minister is no details whatsoever. We are concerned about the heightened tensions on the Manus Island Detention Centre, which is an Australian-run centre, and yet we haven't seen anything from the Minister at all. Indeed, he has not been transparent, he has not been open with the Australian people, and quite frankly we don't know if he's even been in contact in any great depth with his PNG counterparts. So quite frankly the Minister really needs to be more open with the Australian people. He can ensure the safety on Manus Island at the same time as being transparent with the Australian people.
But how can he ensure it when it's an Australian run centre, it's the PNG authorities who have the end say. It's on Manus Island. This was Labor's approach that created this situation.
Well, we haven't heard anything from the Minister about how he's cooperating with PNG authorities, how often he's talking with PNG authorities and how they're working together. There's been no detail about the operation whatsoever, and so we've heard nothing, and the Australian people are not able to have the full facts in front of them. Instead, we're relying on unnamed sources in media reports. I mean, the Minister needs to give the Australian people a lot more, be transparent, not keep ducking and weaving, and ensure that he's doing everything he can and everything that the government is committed to reducing tensions so we don't see a horrific tragedy like we saw almost 12 months ago.
Kieran,
Paul Fletcher, the government keeps saying that the asylum seekers won't, or refugees, when they're found to be refugees, as many of them have been, that they won't be resettled here. The issue is, though, that they now want, according to the advocates, that they want to be integrated into the UN system. They don't want necessarily to come here now. They just don't want to end up in PNG. That's the problem here. They want to be handled by the UN.
Well, I just want to
the protests are going to continue.
Let me just make the point. Firstly, the Minister was speaking in the media yesterday about these issues, and so the suggestion that he's not been open and transparent, I think, doesn't square with the facts. But the second point I want to make is it's obviously important that order and safety in that facility be maintained. We obviously want to ensure that those in that facility have personal safety and security, have proper access to food and water, proper access to medical treatment and so on. And that's one of the reasons why the Minister congratulated the Papua New Guinea authorities and Transfield for acting to restore order. But the key point here is that we have a set of obligations under international law, which of course we meet, but at the same time we came to government with a commitment to stop the boats and to stop hundreds of people drowning at sea, as happened under Labor, and this facility and its orderly management is part of that policy.
But just, we're almost out of time, but on this issue that the refugees the asylum seekers want to end up in the UN system. They're not saying they want to come here now, they want to end up under the UN umbrella. So I just don't see how these protests end if that's the end outcome they want. They don't want to be resettled in PNG.
Well, we are committed to the maintenance of order and safety and security within that facility.
Okay. All right, that's it. We're out of time. Paul Fletcher, Amanda Rishworth, have a good day. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Karen.
Thank you.
A quick break on AIM Agenda. Back in just a moment.